All right. Hey, welcome to day one. So, as I mentioned in post on LinkedIn as well as on the Papa Bear Bites website, I am spending the next 60 days getting myself as familiarized with the Godot game engine as I can. One of the biggest values that I find out of that is I love learning. So, it's showing that I can actually sit and focus on a single thing at once. But I also love games. So, not only showing myself game dev, but being able to get a little more intimately knowledgeable on it so I could share it with others around me. I do have a few people that I know that I guarantee would be interested in making a game, and I think it'd be fun just to join them on that. So, I did jump into this a little early. I started working on this about a week ago instead of actually waiting for yesterday. Today's Tuesday. But I came back and actually did some refactoring and did some cleanup yesterday and continued moving the game forward. So let's talk about a couple of things that I did. So one thing that I was pretty excited about was I started looking a bit more into signals. So if you're not familiar with what signals are, as part of the game engine, you can do this thing called connect. So if you're familiar with the pub sub pattern, so you have one entity that is broadcasting messages, and end number of recipients can do a thing. So subscribers. So it's really cool in being able to create something and not really need to know who knows about it, but you can get yourself in a pretty deep hole. And case in point on that, as an Angular engineer for a number of years, one thing that we ran into was just the absolute pains of observables. So you don't have control over who's observing. And sometimes you may even leave objects floating out there that are continuing to observe and continuing to do things each time they're rendered. So if you don't actually kill the connection, it will continue listening and continue functioning and doing its thing. So what does that mean? You're talking about um, absolute memory leaks within your application, and you don't want that because as engineers, well, you want to be able to give a good experience for your users. But imagine, on a website, you have something that's happening over and over, and people are moving fast and staying on the web page for hours without actually refreshing. Well, this memory that's being consumed is just going to grow and grow and grow, and eventually to the point where they're going to run out of memory. It can happen, it will happen. And as part of a game, I imagine, with all the resources that are being used in this, that it can happen just as fast, if not faster. So depending on what you're throwing in those signals, depending on what you're doing. So let's move off to what I ended up doing. So using signals is appropriate for some things. The one thing I haven't done is that second part I just mentioned, making sure we don't have memory leaks. But at this point, I'm not actually killing any of the scenes that are listening to any of the connections. So I feel okay. But one thing that I was doing, let me go ahead and run the game real quick and I can show. So this is a real simple game. Again, big proof of concept. The idea is you're a farmer. It's just a quick, simple farming simulator. All I want to be able to do is buy seeds. So if I walk over to the vendor, well, if I clicked the right thing, if I walk over to the vendor, I get a pop up. So this is a pop up that I created. I can purchase seeds. So I spend my money. I can come over here. I can get water, which, water's free. It's coming from a well. And then I should be able to come over to the plant and I have a little E icon on top. Now that's new. That's something that I actually did put on today. Started doing some interactions. So you see at the bottom, every time I press E, it does a thing. That was a fun little lesson as well. So, but how did that come into effect here? So, what I was doing for a while was this actually had some signals that I was just broadcasting out in order to display this entire top here to show or hide. So if we look in code real quick, as part of the well, I have a collision and I have a sprite. That's all I should need. But here in the well, I have the well controller. Excuse my mess. I have the well controller, and what I'm doing in this one, before what I was doing was inside of inventory, which is a reusable scene. That's a real cool concept as well. But as part of inventory, I was actually listening for a message that was coming from here to show and hide. So what that was doing was it was displaying it or not as part of this seed inventory here. And then whenever it actually said display, what I was doing was this logic here. So showing the inventory panel or hiding the inventory panel. Well, that did not make a lot of sense once I started reusing this. So displaying the seed vendor inventory. So one, I had to pass something up to actually listen for the parent broadcasting the message. But two, I had to make sure that I wasn't actually like listening to the same message on multiple products or multiple vendors, excuse me. So the thing that made the most sense was just connecting up the method here and just calling it directly. Now the really cool thing is if we go back to the main scene right here, go into here and the well controller, still trying to get used to uh, this flat file open organization. I probably should just hide this and start working over here in my file system. But anyways, the being able to call it directly here, now each time I create one, whether it's a well or a cornfield, I only have a single button to hit, which is really cool. Cornfield's a little different, but it's similar in logic when it comes to that one. So here's the now the next thing I'm looking at is this all can be reused as well. So this entire thing where I have multiple sprites or I have a single sprite, that doesn't need to display in that way. I can just put that in as inputs. So I'm about to even shrink this down even further, which is really cool. Looking for opportunities for making your code simpler is always a good pattern to get into. Now, I am really early in this and I'm learning, so maybe one thing that I would do is see the opportunity as I'm building my next one. Then as I build my next one, I use that scene and I iterate over it. So, looking for different opportunities to build up on here. What else did we? What else did I end up doing on this? So, let me pull up the game one more time. So as I walk through here, so the goal on here is when I hit E, it's going to see my inventory. It's going to take specific items. So I'm actually going to extend the tooltip here. So it's going to show the items needed to do the planting. So for this one, it's going to be 1 corn and 1 water. It's going to be really simple. And so when I press E, I anticipate that the corn and water are going to decrease by X amount. Do I have to press E for each corn and water? So I press E and it sees there's corn and water and it puts it in there. If I only have 1 corn, will it take the corn and say I still need a water? If I have a water, will it take the water and still say I need a corn? I think those are some pretty cool things to kind of think about. And then do I press E to plant and F to harvest? Which then at that point I harvest and now I have something else in my inventory, which now that I think about it, I need corn and corn seed. Maybe I kind of separate them out in the UI as crops and seeds. So those are some of the cool things that we get to think about on this. And as I walk through here, the other thing I notice is my little guy's kind of bouncy as I move, and I think that's more of a camera thing. But I will have another vendor over here, which is where I'll actually be selling the crops. It's just going to be another placeholder for now. We're going to have fun with that one, and then eventually I may add a little more fun on here, being able to jump around and just whatever, just have some fun, just learning, just figuring out platforms. And maybe I'll put a vendor up top. Maybe we'll put a ladder up there. Maybe, uh, but over the next couple days, A couple of things that I want to finish. One is I want to continue building out the planting. I want to be able to plant corn and harvest it. And when I harvest it, I just anticipate it's going to go to the inventory. I already have the inventory management built out. And then I can go and sell it. So I imagined that the logic for the crop being able to say that I have a requirement of one corn and one water can translate over pretty well on the other side where I say, hey, I have a harvested crop, or I said crop and water, corn and water, a seed and water. And on the other side, I have a harvested crop and now I want to go sell it. So I go hit a button, I go do a thing, and then it gives money based on the crop. The other thing that I want to do is my daughter has actually started building up some assets for me to use, some sprites. So this is going to look a little bit different over the next couple of days, and hopefully, not only will I be importing custom sprites, but I'll be getting animations in here as well. So I think there's some pretty cool stuff kind of shaping up with this little POC, this learning opportunity. What I need to do after I get the sprites in, get the animations, build up the two things, that's basically the game loop simply. I am going to be having some unlockables, which I don't think is going to be super difficult. The idea is it's going to show, well, okay, so that says seeds. That needs to be fixed up. But over here with seeds, right now we have corn at $10, beans at $50. But what if I want to add something else in there? But I want the user to unlock it. So I want to be able to do that. But now, as part of the game loop locally, is this something that as a user, I can have the user actually save their state? So what if they unlock something? Do they need to unlock it again? Is this going to be a one sit down playthrough type game? Uh, so those are really some of the things that I have left. Interacting with planting the crop, doing and animations. So getting the sprites in, getting some animations in, playing around with the user interface, giving some fun little things to do in here. So the game hopefully will feel a lot different by, I'd say, within the next 7 days. So by day 10, this should feel like a done game. Now, is this a done game that I can sell? No. Is this a game that I can put out here and show some concepts? Absolutely. I think that's the that's the goal of this entire thing. So, anyways, this is where I'm going to leave off. I'll see y'all tomorrow.